okay in here? Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Something Super Spiritual. We have a super special return guest today. Actually, return first time to the live stream, but return to the show. We did a podcast together about a month ago, Peaceful Nick the Medium. I'm so happy you're here, and I wanted to introduce you to the community and bring you on and share you with the world.
I am so grateful to be a guest on your live stream, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your work, all of the positive things you talk about, and all of these questions and comments that are already coming in the chat. And I'm just feeling a lot of gratitude in my heart today.
Thank you. Me too. Me too. And you guys, we have to start out with a really big, very necessary conversation. Because, well, I've talked about it in the past on my shows. Many of you who've followed my podcast for the last couple of years have heard. You all know that I've struggled with depression and anxiety my entire life. Comes and goes, it just, the hills and the valleys, the ebbs and the flows. And the state of the world today is difficult. It's really, really difficult. The state of the current politics, let's just start there. It's difficult for so many people. The state of the world, the countries who are, all squabbling over this and that and whatever, that's difficult. And it's scary. It's really, really freaking scary for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Wars in the Ukraine, the genocides happening, in Sudan and wherever else out. Oh my God. And the things that are happening in Israel and Gaza. Oh my stars. I mean, there's a lot going on, you guys. And we want to talk briefly about mental health and how important that is. And more importantly, that everybody knows here that we have this community for each other and that we all have each other's back. And you all know I talk about that every single time, how awesome it is that you guys, you talk to each other, you have each other back in the chats, you all send love to each other when there's a difficult reading that we have, and you guys are just amazing. So Nick, start out with your experience today, and let's just go from there and end it with just the whole lot of love that we know we are capable of.
So without sharing too much personal information about a loved one of mine, battled with depression, severe depression for the last 6 years. And I got the information last night that he had lost his battle with the depression and trigger warning, unaliving. He made that decision. And it's really hard when you have talked to someone and tried to convince them, we love you, we're here for you. And then the depression is so severe that no matter what medication they're on, no matter how much love they get, no matter how much therapy, how much counseling, it's just not enough. And the anger and fear in the world right now, I think is contributing. And then another friend of mine is dealing with this same issue as well. I just found out moments before we went on. And so I don't want this to be a sad podcast. I
Mhm.
want us to talk about how can we help each other? How can we support each other?
Yeah.
How can we make sure to reach out to our loved ones if we haven't heard from them and thought, "This is odd. This is
Mhm.
odd. I need to check on them." Um, and you may not even like your loved ones that much to check on them, but but
Fair. Totally fair. Yes.
but there's we need to be here for each other because especially in the US, which is where I'm assuming a lot of us in the audience are from, we're struggling here too. Regardless of what side of the fence you're on with your belief systems, everybody's struggling. No
Yeah.
matter if what you believe, we're all in this together. And my theme for 2025, which I've never picked a theme in my life before, but this year I got a download to have the theme of collaboration. And that's why I reached out to you originally.
My favorite thing.
Yeah. We need to have community and collaboration because we're all in this together. And this is a
Yeah.
huge spiritual lesson we're going through right now.
We're so much better together.
Yeah.
Hands down, 100%,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
We are so much better together.
And we
And
need each other.
we do.
We biologically need each other. We need hugs. We need love. We need to hear that we're loved.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is a compassionate audience. You know, this audience, whether we're, you know, you're here with us live right now or in the future, this audience is very heart-centered and leads with compassion and acceptance and understanding. And I just wanted to make a point. I think most people know this, but I just want to make a point that in all of the readings that have ever happened with me, and I know with Nick too, and actually with all the colleagues that I've worked with, these people who do make their way back home by way of this, they are not suffering. They are not lost. They are not anywhere outside of the loving space that we all go to. And there's another thing that I just really wanted to emphasize from my own experience. A lot of us, when this happens to somebody so close to us, we just don't understand. And at first, let's be honest, emotions run wild at first, and understandably, we can be angry, we can be mad. How dare they? This is selfish.
Right.
How dare they? But I just want to verbalize this from my own experience, because mental health is literally mental health for a reason. We're talking about it for a reason. When I was in that space in 1995, something clicked in my brain. And I literally thought it was the next best, most reasonable action. There was no fear. There was no worry. There was no worry about, what was being left behind. I mean, there was probably like on the surface, wanting to make sure everybody was going to be okay. But outside of that, on a deeper level, it made so much sense to me. It was
there
and rational. Like somebody could have said, you know what, go to Baskin Robbins and get yourself a pint of ice cream and eat it all in one sitting. And it would have, you know what, that would make me feel better. It landed that reasonably on my insides. What got me out of that in a flash was thinking about my dog who was with me and what would happen to him. And immediately it pulled me right out of that. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I made an emergency call to my therapist. And so I just wanted to make that point that I do believe many, many people, when they get to that state, that place, it just clicks as such just a reasonable, rational thought.
And the love, So my very good friend Kathy Behrens has just popped in, and I just want to say hello to her. And her specialty is pet communication, but she's also a medium.
Mhm.
She the love of your dog is the whole thing I was talking about earlier. Like, we need to know we're loved. Dogs, cats, elephants, whatever pet you have, their love is unconditional because
Mhm.
they're in the present moment and they're not judging.
Yeah.
And that is beautiful that you felt that, and that snapped you out of it, because you are definitely meant to be here and you help so many people with your gift and with your conversations.
Thank you.
And I'm grateful to your pup. To your
Oh,
baby.
you and me both. I mean, I look at him all the time, and I looked at him and, just thought, you saved my life. You saved my life. You saved my life. Mhm.
And there's some beautiful comments. I just want to say Morningstar Art said, what you said about us. Oh, perfect. What you said about us needing each other and to check in. I tend to be a bit of a loner. I'm a loner too. And Kathy actually checked in on me today and made me so happy. Hi, Misha. So all these wonderful, lovely people. We're all a community, all of us mediums and healers. And I think it's just so important that we're here, because healers need healing too. Kathy reminded me of that. And I know I keep talking about her, but we work together all the time.
Let's keep talking about Kathy.
She gave me a beautiful reading from my mom in spirit the other day, and which I wasn't expecting. She was doing a live stream and I was moderating, and my family loves to talk to her for some reason. And she just
Love that.
reminded me mediums need mediums too.
Yes, it's true. It's absolutely true. Yeah. Thank you, Kathy, for being here. For all of you people who haven't been here, welcome. I'm happy to have you here. Thank you for being here with Nick and myself, and Brianna's in the background. Everybody say hi to Brianna,
Hi,
doing her
Brianna.
magic in the background. Thank you, Brianna. And Bernadette. Hi, Bernadette. Yeah, Bernadette's been with me for a while, and she understands the mental health. She understands the struggle. She understands what it means to, to push through and reach out.
And our loved ones in spirit, um, are, if somebody makes that decision to do that, they are going to spirit. They are surrounded by love. They are surrounded by peace. One of the most common questions I get as a medium is my loved one okay who did that? Are they in hell? Because religions, as you all know, teach that. Hello, 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 everybody. Religions teach that. And my response is, why would God, if you believe in a God, punish someone who is already suffering?
Seriously.
It's like spanking a kid who burned his hand on the stove.
Yeah.
Why would you hurt somebody that's already hurting? Because people don't it's not a decision they just make on a whim.
No.
It's a long process. And my heart goes out to anyone who, I see some stuff in the chat, excuse me.
Mhm.
I my heart goes out to everyone, and know that your loved ones are safe and at peace. And they were welcomed with love.
Oh, overwhelming love.
Right. Right. I describe it as, to anyone who has a child that they held for the first time, or fell in love for the first time, or got that new puppy and just was in love with it immediately. That is how we feel when we are greeted by our loved ones on the other side, but multiplied billions of times.
Oh,
Like, that first in love feeling, or that first time you hold that new puppy and you kiss it and you smell its little breath, or the
oh,
first time you hold a baby and you're just, that love that you can't put words to it. That's how it is in spirit, just magnified over and over. And there's no getting away from it. So be ready to be loved when you get over it. When it's your natural time. When it's your natural time.
yes. Yeah. Bernadette says she has 2 kids and 2 cats, and they're her light and hope, and they keep her going. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And animals are so special to me. I'm a cat person. I'd be a cat lady. I'd have 20 cats if I could, but in my 30s I got allergic. And I actually was looking up getting a hairless cat the other day because I want one so bad, but I can't risk the allergies, but
Yeah, that's hard. That's really hard. I developed a cat allergy later in life too.
it's so bizarre, right? Like I never expected it. And I have 2 kids too, Bernadette. They're adults, and today is the day my first grandbaby is due, but she is being stubborn and she is not ready. She wants to be an Aries, I think, is the problem. She wants to be born after the equinox.
Oh,
today, by the way,
it is today. Happy equinox, everybody.
Yep. The days are going to get longer and warmer, and all these snows and sleets we're having are going to go away.
Yeah, I was late too. I was 2 weeks late. I was in there. I was like, no, I don't want to go. Nope, I don't want to. I don't want to. Why did I decide this? No, 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 no.
Oh, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it through this year, and we can only do it together. We can only do it together.
Amen.
Bernadette has a question about schizophrenia. I don't have. I can't answer that. I don't have the answer to that. I'm assuming your dad has passed.
Oh. Please ask my dad if he was schizophrenic or had mental health. Am I the only one in the family with schizophrenia? Thank you so much. Are you in connection mode yet, Nick?
No, well, I wasn't planning on it. But I would have to do something like that privately. That seems a little private, and I would have to really have a deep connection for that. That seems real personal.
Yeah.
Carrie said, my dog Bella, yay, has helped me so much through the lockdowns, and especially after the loss of my daughter. Yeah, animals, they're so healing, and they don't talk back with words. So beautiful.
They are just, they're magic. You know, they're little. We were just having this conversation yesterday. I don't remember if it was on the live stream or if I was having a conversation somewhere else, because this is the third one this week. But we were just having this conversation about the animals and how healing they are, and how they, you know, they're just, it's natural for them, and how we oftentimes might grieve harder when our pets go versus when our family goes or friends go. You know what I mean? There's a difference in that.
Yep. And Kathy said, innocent beings of love. Exactly. And I'll tell you a story. I heard this on the telepathy tapes, but I had heard it before. There was a gentleman who was working with elephants and living with elephants in some part of Africa. I can't remember which part, but he was working with them and living with them for years. And then he went back home and retired, and he passed away. Well, the elephants traveled hundreds of miles to his house when he passed away, and came to visit him on that day for 4 years straight, his home.
On the anniversary of his passing.
Yes. Tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they have their own little calendar.
They are brilliant, magnificent beings. They just don't speak language to us the way we do, but they do speak to each other.
Yeah.
So I think so if you're an animal lover, you get it. They know things.
Yeah.
They know things.
They do.
And they're just as brilliant as we are. They're just speaking a different language.
I would argue brillianter.
Brillianter. Yeah, I say brillianter.
Yes, more brilliant.
Yes, we know that's not the right word, but it's funny to say.
They surpass the human.
Absolutely.
Experience.
Because they're in the present moment. There's no judgment. And guess what? Animals always do. Work as a community.
Yeah.
They decide as a community. There's a beautiful movie. If anybody wants to be inspired, there's a beautiful documentary called I Am by Tom Shadyac, who was a movie director, and he had a horrible bicycle crash, and he had post-concussion syndrome, and he was very, very depressed. And when he started to come out of it, he decided to make this documentary. He directed a bunch of Jim Carrey movies. So he was like a famous director, won awards. And in the movie, the documentary, they're interviewing, spiritual speakers, leaders, philosophers, people like that. And one of the gentlemen said there was a study of animals, and they thought if it's a herd of deer, they thought the leader was the one that made the decision to run away when a predator was coming, or the leader who made the decision when to go drink the water at the pond. But what they realized after observing them for years or however long, they realized it was a community decision. When 51% of the herd was looking the same way, the rest of them automatically went and did whatever they did to go to the pond or do whatever. And I'm like, wow, that's community, and we need more of that.
Yeah,
we need more.
Totally.
Yeah.
I love what Heather said. She said she heard the story on the telepathy tapes. That is fantastic. Have you listened to the telepathy tapes?
Binged it in a day.
Oh,
all 10 episodes
wow.
in one day.
Wow.
Obsessed.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually did 2 live streams about it because I was like so obsessed. Like, oh my gosh, the hill, these kids talking on the hill. I mean, it's incredible. So for any of you who hasn't seen it, the telepathy tapes is a documentary, a podcast documentary.
Yeah.
Where mostly nonverbal autistic teens and young adults, it was discovered through many years accidentally that they were communicating telepathically with their teachers, with their parents, etc. And they did all these experiments, and the kids, they ended up finding out that they had this thing called the hill, where they would go telepathically and talk to each other from thousands of miles away. And more than one group of kids were reporting this from different parts of the world who didn't know each other or have any contact with each other. And there was a new episode, a follow-up episode the other day that came out, and they were talking about something very similar. And I'm like, it's just watch it. I mean, I could talk for 5 hours just about that. I mean, it's incredible. Some of them have mediumship abilities, which is even more incredible.
Yeah. And it just makes sense, you guys. Like we talk about synchronicity all the time. We talk about the synchronicity of the planet and what's happening with the planet, the climate change, the warming, the storms, how they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. At the same time, the climate within the human race is heating up and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And also the awakening that's happening right now with everybody getting more and more and more. People are waking up to the truth and who we are, that we are ultimately first and foremost a spiritual being. Period. End of sentence.
We are a spirit inhabiting a meat suit, as my sister Holly calls it.
100%.
A meat suit.
And the fact that people are recognizing that and noticing it more and more, coming to forums or platforms like such as this and community and having these open conversations, we're recognizing the reality in the spiritual senses, the psychic senses, clairvoyance, clairaudience, and how truly real we are, and how every single one of us is wired for all of that, whether we believe it or not.
And I say this, you get me all worked up now, because I say this all the time. We are animals, period. I don't care what anybody can say, blah, 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 blah. We're animals. It's a biological fact. We have unlearned our instincts and intuition because of technology and society. It's all in us. How do you think the animals in Indonesia, when the big earthquake and tsunami happened a few years ago, none of them died because they all ran up the mountain and knew the tsunami was coming, because they are still locked in. We're not locked in because we unlearned it, but it's there. We can relearn it like that.
There. It's totally there. And so all of this information is coming to the surface, all of this information. And here come the telepathy tapes, where they're talking about these kids who are nonverbal, who are all having these similar experiences and wowing with the evidence they're coming back with. It just, the synchronicity and all of it coming up is truly just wow.
That it's coming up now. And finally, people are learning about the gateway process. experiments that the CIA did 40, 50 years ago. So if you guys don't know, look it up. The Gateway Process was the CIA's experiments with remote viewing, telepathy, psychism, mediumship, all the things we are talking about now, all of the healing modalities that you see people on social media, and you're booking readings with this person, that person. The CIA, the government's CIA was studying this decades ago.
Yeah.
So for people who are skeptics and saying it's not real just because you want to be skeptical, well, the government is still doing it.
Yeah.
I hope we won't get banned for talking about that here.
Okay, so since we're right here in the conversation, let's go to Kimberly. Kimberly asks, what is the best way to relearn our superpowers?
I do. As a matter of fact, I have, you can download my digital course from my website. Here's a hard copy of it. It's the author's copy, so it's got the little line on it, but it's digital course Mediumship 101. But basically, and I have tons of stuff on my YouTube channel, Sitting in the Power, where you sit, it's a meditation for mediums, and you connect to spirit, you connect with your guides, you connect with your loved ones, you learn the difference between your energy and thoughts and their energy and thoughts. Find your spirit guide. I have a free guide to finding your spirit guide on my website with videos embedded in it. I would start with finding your spirit guide and sitting in the power. That's how I would start. And then third, I would learn about the clairs. What are your powers? Do you know things before you're supposed to know them? Do you have precognitive dreams? Do you smell things that aren't there? Do you hear words? Do you hear voices? Things like the clairs. Those are the top three things. And I do teach one-on-one classes and group classes as well.
Yeah, Kimberly, really the best way to relearn and remember our natural state is really to, first of all, just sitting in your own silence. Sit in your own silence with the intention of connecting with spirit, your soul, the source, your guides, your guardians, your loved ones. Just allow all of that just to wash all over you. And it doesn't have to be for long. It's sitting in one space for an hour, and it sounds overwhelming for most of us. But, really just start small and just allow that to just settle in, and you start to recognize, and you start to feel. Your body is the number one tool. It will tell you, you feel, when love is present. You get the chilly bumps, you get that flush feeling, you can feel that you can feel yourself raise a little on your insides, So really, I would just second all what Nick was saying. She's an incredible teacher. She has her own incredible courses. Find a teacher that resonates with you, and
that's the most important part.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is the most important. If you are just booking a class with somebody, it's not necessarily going to work if you're not resonating on the same frequency. Not everybody vibes.
Right. And that's okay.
And that's fine. Yeah, that's absolutely fine, because teachers as well as students should want to vibe with each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you can't learn if you don't trust.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And if you're not vibing, you're not trusting. Yeah.
And Kimberly, I also just want to remind you to don't take it so seriously. Have fun with it.
And it's our natural state.
Yeah.
That's the interesting thing. I'm sure you feel this as well, but if not, please correct me. I feel more in my natural state doing mediumship work than I have ever felt in my life. It just flows right in.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it wasn't like that the first day I tried it, right? Because I didn't know anything about mediumship when I started.
Yeah.
But now that I'm more experienced, I've had, 6 years of doing this. It's a knowing that it's who we are, it's who we all are, it's where we came from, and it becomes a natural state of communication and a natural state of being.
Truth.
I'm glad we're vibing. I'm glad we're resonating.
Yeah. You guys, I'm so happy that you're all here. I want to talk. Angie said something. Angie, thank you, Rihanna. Angie asks, do you think this awakening will ultimately help or hurt humanity?
I think the pendulum swings. The pendulum swings, and it swings for a reason, because we have to have balance. There was a movie, and I don't remember the name of it. It was a kid's movie. I think, it might have been Jimmy Neutron, maybe, where they wished all the parents were going away because the kids wanted everything they wanted, right? If the parents were gone, we could have all the ice cream. We could have all the pizza. We could stay up all night. We could do all the things we want to do. And so this is why the pendulum swings, in my opinion. We may have our opinions and feelings about how the world should work and what should be happening, but we have to accept we may be wrong about some things. I mean, I don't think I'm wrong about much, but but we have to accept there's a possibility that we're wrong about some things. And so we have to realize there's a reason the pendulum swings, because if we eat all the ice cream and pizza we want and watch TV all night, like in that movie, what happens? Some other things may not work out for the best.
We're going to be a little unhappy.
Right. Like, also, I know I'm talking about a lot of movies today. The Jim Carrey movie where Bruce Almighty, where people were asking, he was saying yes to all the prayers.
Yes.
Like that could lead to disaster. And my oldest son is a history expert. And I asked him about this very thing. And he said, Mom, this has been humanity forever. Mm-hmm. It goes back and forth and back and forth.
It's true. You know, we've heard the stories. Most of us here have heard the stories of Atlantis and how Atlantis was so incredibly ahead and spiritual technology, and the literal telepathy between them and the spiritual senses completely dialed up to 100, and you know, levitating this and that, whatever, to do whatever they needed to do. However, you know, something happened in there somewhere where that pendulum started to go the other direction. I think the human ego kind of got into the place that human egos go, and we, you know, that's just part of our experience, and part of the point in this experience of life that we come back and round and back and around and back and around for over and over and over.
And when you know, things are so utopian and the ego kicks in, the ego is the worst part of humanity. If we could have ego death, like Eckhart Tolle talks about, we'd be much happier. But because when you get that first person who was, you know, learning how to hunt and save the meat for the winter, right? He's like, I'm going to take a little extra of this meat and I'm going to save it for myself. And that's the first time greed happened. And then more greed happened, and then more greed happened. And now look where we're at. And so any utopian society, somebody's ego is going to kick in and
I think you're onto something.
Wreak havoc. Yeah.
Angie says, I think my fear would be that if at some point everyone believes this life is just an experience and not the quote main event, then people may stop caring so much and it'll become a shit show.
It will become.
It's already. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. I think we're there. I think we're there. I think we're in it. We're in it. But we have to have each other. And that's the important thing.
Yeah. Angie says fair. Yeah, I think ultimately the obvious, the light side of everybody waking up to the truth and who we are, you know, that is the spirit. That is the divine source flowing through us. And that won't hurt us. That won't hurt humanity. However, being here on this 3D planet where every one of us come in with this human ego that we've been talking about, you know, it's tempering that and recognizing, you know, the ego runs by fear and doubt and untrust. What's the opposite? What's not trusting? You know what I mean? And it's in those places of fear. We've heard in so many meditations in the past that the human ego is just there to protect us. It's just there to protect us. It's like, it doesn't want for instance, I'll give you my experience. Jumping into this line of work, public speaking was terrifying for me. And it took a long, long time to move through that. And baby steps, and there's great power in baby steps. However, that ego inside of me, that big giant piece that was so afraid of the vulnerability and the trolls and the people who are, sit behind a keyboard and they're hateful. We see that all over the place.
Keyboard warriors.
That ego was just trying to protect me. That's all. The ego was just trying to protect me. So there's just that's just part of life, and we're here to navigate through that. And we're here to navigate through that together.
And speaking of the ego, sometimes we don't recognize the ego we have because we've been taught through the years that ego is you're conceited and you think you're better than everybody else. But there's so much more to that. It's like, I had a lot of anxiety for a long time before doing readings because I was afraid I would disappoint my clients. I'm like, I'm so nervous. I don't want to disappoint my clients. I don't want to bring any harm to anyone. And then I heard a medium, I believe it was Kim Russo, on a podcast. And and it was wonderful. And I wrote it down. I have a note on my desk: leave your ego at the door. Your fear has nothing to do with spirit. Leave your, it's you, that's your ego. And it changed my mind. I mean, just that one line she said changed my mediumship. And I read it before every reading. And it's been a couple of months since I heard her say that. And I'm just very grateful that I now have that. And like, oh, it's not about me and what I'm afraid of. It's about spirit and my client.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Lori. Lori made this comment here about changing her belief system. And I love that. Changing my belief system into here and there has given me so much peace. Once my son was gone, I could no longer believe in heaven and hell. We are just here and then we are there. Yes. 100%. And that's a really great point, Lori. Thank you for bringing that up, because our belief system, Suzanne Giesemann calls it the BS.
Yep.
And
I love her.
Me too. And it's true. It is BS. Belief system and BS, because we are programmed from childhood. The minute we come out of the womb, wherever we are in the country or whatever religion, whatever society, whatever part of the planet, there's just certain imprints that we are all, programmed with.
Right.
And then we spend the rest of our life moving through those childhood traumas, trying to heal them, trying to find our wholeness, trying to figure out what's real. And the belief system is one of the first things that we need to really, truly acknowledge on our insides. What is my belief system? What do I believe? And quite often, I think a lot of us, if we really went deep within that, would discover that maybe I believe I'm really not worth it.
Right.
Because I was told from the day one, you'll never amount to anything.
Right.
Or, those are dangerous thoughts, those are dangerous thoughts. But to
parents do that a lot.
They're fast asleep at the wheel. They don't recognize the truth and who they are. And more often than not, it's those of us with this experience working through all of that childhood trauma and accelerating our healing, accelerating our our evolution.
Right.
We are doing that hard work that is also karmically, healing generational patterns of those bad, painful behaviors. And so the kids that come after us don't have to experience that anymore. And that's huge. That is giant evolution for our soul. Doing that work while we are here. And it's hard. I know it's hard.
It is hard.
But it's huge evolution for our soul. Huge.
And I agree with you 100%. It's hard work. And I want to say something else about a spiritual path. And Michael said something, I think it was Michael or Christopher.
Michael
Michael
Christopher.
Christopher. He came here for an ass kicking. He's getting the
He did.
spiritual path. We may be happy and so glad that we're doing this and loving this journey. I wouldn't go back and change anything about my spiritual journey. It's the most beautiful, wonderful thing. But anybody that's on it knows there are some bumps in the road, because when you change your frequency and your belief systems from the old BS to the, maybe it's new BS, right? Maybe. However, you have people in your life that are stuck in the old BS and you're in the new BS and you're not vibing anymore. They're like, you're weird now, or, you know, you're calling me out. You're telling me truthful things that I don't want to hear. So I don't want to be around you. Mm-hmm. So for those of you on a spiritual path, you can probably attest to, there are people in your life that used to be in your life that are not so much in there anymore because you're shifting and changing. And it's not like you're doing it out of meanness. It's just hard to talk about your spiritual path to people who don't have an interest in that, or don't understand it, or purposefully don't want to understand it.
Right.
And
they're
so,
afraid of it.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad I'm on this side of the sword.
Yeah. Kelly mentions, hi, Kelly. She says, except it's not simple. It's extremely challenging, and support is so necessary. 100%.
Yes.
And
it's
that's
complex.
That's why we are here having these conversations many times a week with each other. We are that support for each other.
Right. Mm-hmm. I'm so glad. There are so many comments coming in. There's so many comments. I can't even keep up with them, but I see so many people from my Spirit Exchange. Me and Kathy have a Spirit Exchange. It's an annual membership. So I see so many of my members. Lori is one. Kelly is one. So I'm so glad you guys are all here. And if you guys want to know more about Spirit Exchange, I can tell you at the end. But
absolutely.
But like Tanya said, I'm a cycle breaker in my family, and it's extremely hard work, but it's rewarding at the same time. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I'm a cycle breaker. So much a cycle breaker. And I vowed when I raised my kids to do, you know, obviously I'm not perfect. Nobody is, mm-hmm. but I've tried very hard to break the damaging cycle. The damage is a cycle's a circle, I guess. The damaging cycle for the next generation, right? So now I'm about to have my first grandchild, and I hope deeply that the good parts of myself and my husband's lessons and guidance for our sons, I hope that helps them be even better than we were. You know, I want them to be better parents than we were, because, you know, no one's perfect. And it's hard to accept that when you have adult children and they're like, you know, maybe you shouldn't have done this or that. And I'm like, ooh, you're right. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. That's huge, you know, to have that awareness and the humility to stand there and say, ooh, yep, you're right. Oops.
It's hard to accept when you've made a mistake and to admit it when you didn't realize it at the time. You know, somebody said you hurt me and you're like, oh, I didn't even know that. I did. I didn't realize it. And that's hard to accept, because you want to beat yourself up about it.
Oh, completely. I mean, I have the biggest ethereal baseball bat of anybody, and I've hit, you know, I've taken on myself quite a few times in the past. And yeah, that's hard. You know, we can be so hard on ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Kimberly's the black sheep in her family, empathetic and harm to none. I'd say I'm a black sheep
I
for
would
sure.
say most of us here. I'd say, every single one of us here, watching this, listening to this, following these conversations in this community all over, it's a beautiful community all over YouTube. But yeah, we are the black sheep.
Yeah.
And we frighten them because of again, go back to the imprints of religion and what, quote, religion says about this kind of work and this free thinking and recognizing the truth in who we are. Because when we truly recognize the truth in who we are, suddenly we don't need those churches in the way
Right.
that led us to believe we need them.
Right.
And we don't need those churches, which means our money's not going to them anymore. And I mean, there's a lot in play, a lot at play here.
That subject could be another 2 hours.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And I want to say, I saw something on social media one day where it said the people who were talking about the spiritual growth and how we're changing, and people are kind of moving out of our lives. The people who you irritate the most are the people who wish they could be more free like you, but are afraid to be. So they get mad at you because they want to be free to explore something else. It doesn't have to be spirituality necessarily. It can be anything. But people who are held into this box that they were BS'd into, and now they hold themselves as an adult into this box. And then they see somebody free and open to make the choices they want and believe the way they want. And it irritates them, but they can't understand why, but they really just want to be free. People just want to be free to be themselves, but there's so much judgment in our society and by their families that they just hold them in this box and they hold themselves in a box. And the thing about religions, we need to have just a whole podcast about that.
Seriously. Yeah. Let's do that actually, Nick. Let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sign me up because I could talk and talk and talk and talk about it. I get a lot of trolls telling me about the Bible when I've read the Bible many times over the years. I was in a religion for my whole life. So,
yeah, that's hard. That is hard. I have my own experience with all that, and I've got the family in that, and I'll just leave it at that because
we'll save the good stuff for our next meeting.
Yeah, it's hard.
That'll be a cliffhanger for everybody.
Tanya says, Tanya says, you are speaking my experience. I was 12 years old, crying and telling myself that my children will never feel about me the way I feel about my parents. My oldest daughter is 16 and she wants to spend time with me and tells me she loves me. This was not my experience growing up. Yes.
Yep.
That's what's happening. That is what happens when we wake up.
Right.
And I love what you're saying, Tanya, because that comes up in readings so often when the parents on the other side are coming through to acknowledge and praise how the grandkids and the greats are all being raised in such a different manner than they were taught. And let's be honest, they probably did the best they could with what they had. They probably did.
Yeah.
And it's the way that they were taught how children are raised. They were taught what love is. This is how it looks to love a children. Right. And that could be smacking them across the face.
Belt.
Oh yeah. I had the belt too. Yeah.
But I talk about that a lot in my readings lately, the past 6 months. Often when I'm talking to the parents, they will take me back a generation or two and show me glimpses of how their childhood was.
Yeah.
And it's not to excuse their behavior. I think a lot of people think that when apologies are coming through or acknowledgments for how someone treated you, it's not to excuse their behavior. It's to acknowledge it and to explain it. Because oftentimes victims of abuse in family systems, whether it's emotional, physical, other types of abuse, they want answers to why. Why? Why did you hurt me? Why did you neglect me? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? And I think a lot of times those explanations come through in the reading to answer that question. but not to excuse the behavior.
No, I say that too all the time. There are no free passes here. Abuse is abuse is abuse, period.
Right.
And there are no free passes.
Right.
However, when we are going through this state of awakening, and it's all different stages, and it ebbs and it flows, and we go back and we fall back, and we, have to bring ourselves back forward. But throughout this evolution, in this awakening and the awareness, part of that, the biggest part of that, is recognizing our own responsibility and accountability with our own words, our own actions, our own behaviors, right? And it's within that accountability and responsibility that we really truly understand that those that came before us, generations before us, didn't recognize that. They could not recognize those patterns. They didn't have that, again, the frequency, the vibration is rising. And that's why so many of us are starting to wake up to the truth. And it's within that where we really start to recognize, okay, there are no free passes, but I heard this and I get it now. I understand. And, and then we are feeling this sense of, okay, no free passes. It still sucked, but now I get it. And you start to open up and your heart starts to overfill with compassion and empathy. And we start to recognize, oh, that must have sucked for them. And here we are, and we're growing. And through this empathy and compassion, we're starting to raise our own vibrations, and all that healing is happening, and it's passing on to the future generations. It's awesome.
And Marlena said, that was me. Children should be seen and not heard. My grandma said that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So my dad was born in 1942. So he's a boomer, I guess. That's a boomer. I'm not really sure. And then, so his dad was born, I want to say, in 1913 in Sicily. And I know in Sicily. And so I think about that. What did he have to go through to get to America? Let's start with that. What caused him to have to come here? And then what did my dad's family? They had a bunch of kids. What was that like? What there was no therapy. There was no support. It was get the job done, have as many kids as you can, feed them whatever you could, get the, hope they live, because, my grandma had babies, and there was no support. There was no loving compassion, talk about your feelings. It was get it done, do it. And so I think a lot of that affected our generation. I'm Gen X, 1970 I was born.
I was born in
70. That's why we're so connected.
You're the dog.
And so that affected us, our generation. And so now we're trying to do better for the next generation. But that comes through in readings a lot, that going back generations, for sure. Yeah, that was my grandma's line, Marlena. That was absolutely. I vowed not to do that. I list my kids, because I was the 100 question a day kid. Why does this happen? Tell me that. And I vowed I would answer every one of my kids' questions as much as I could, obviously. And that's just one little example of how to change from one generation to the next. To heal. We need healing.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, we all do. And like what Susan says here, I love this conversation. And I had an experience with the 50-year-old friendship where she blamed me for not asking about her children. I was confused until I heard you and realized she was jealous. There's a lot going on, people. There's a lot going on within our loved ones, within our friends, family, you name it.
Yes.
And it's not for us to judge. If it's unhealthy in a toxic relationship, by all means, back up. Beep, 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 get out.
Right.
But if you know that the relationship is healthy somewhere within there, and this is just a momentary, maybe they're just going through a hard time, that's where the compassion starts to flow. And you're like, all right, you know what? Maybe they're having a hard time. And I'm just going to give them some space. And, there'll come a time we come back around, we'll have this conversation. And she'll say, you know what? I was so jealous of you in that moment. I was just really struggling with this, that, or whatever. And, it happens.
And, people can be friends for a long time and really just be resentful of each other the whole time, and you don't know it.
Mhm.
I ended a 35-year relationship, not for exactly what Susan's talking about, was something similar. And it was one of the hardest things I had to do because I loved this person very much,
Yeah.
but it just wasn't jiving anymore. It wasn't resonating. It just wasn't
Yeah.
working.
Yeah. I love what Tanya says. Tanya says, knowing my mom's terrible upbringing was so healing to me.
Mhm.
I ended up having compassion for her and my hate went away. She was treated terribly by her parents. How could I expect her to know how to be a good parent when her example was awful? Yes,
I
Tanya.
love, love,
That's
love,
it. That's
love.
it.
I have a big family, a bunch of siblings, and some of my mom passed in 1986 when I was 15, and some of my siblings resent and hate my mother,
Mhm.
or did for a long time. But exactly what Tanya's saying, I know her history. I know why she was the way she was. And I have compassion for her. And she has guided me more from spirit my whole life, and has been an excellent mother from spirit
Yep.
than, she was when she was here, because she was damaged. And I love that comment. And I feel exactly the same way. It's, if you understand why people are the way they are, you don't have to forgive them. You don't have to accept them. You don't have to have dinner with them
Right.
or have them to your house for any reason, but just understand how they are and have compassion.
Yeah. That's it. That's it. And it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with
Right.
you. It's everything to do with them and their own BS and their own upbringing and their own, let's be honest, their own childhood trauma
Right.
and their own wounds,
Right. Right.
And I love this as we're wrapping up this hour here. I pulled a card to represent this entire conversation, to
Oh, I
represent
can't wait.
everybody who's been talking in this chat and everything that we've been talking about. And let's talk about synchronicity. That's the card that came out.
Oh,
Love.
beautiful. That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is wonderful.
So let's take a minute here to send out that extra love to those people who are truly struggling with their mental health. How we started out this conversation, who are struggling, having lost somebody to mental health, like you did, Nick. So this is taking a little moment. Take a deep breath in. Take a deep exhale, and feel that grounding and that presence. Feel that expansion in your heart, and just let that overflowing heart go to the places spirit knows it needs to go. It's been an awesome hour with you, Nick. Thank you so, so much.
Absolutely. And we're getting a lot of wonderful comments and gratitude. And yes, 988 is a suicide and crisis lifeline. If you ever need help, if you can't reach out to someone that you know, reach out to the hotline. And you can also, can I talk about the Spirit Exchange?
Absolutely. You to promote. What do you have? Let's talk about it all.
So medium Kathy Behrens, she's Messages from Spirit with medium Kathy on the chat. She and I have our second annual Spirit Exchange, and it starts April 10th. It is a 1-year membership to 10 90-minute gallery readings. If you sign up by the 25th, you get $100 off. You get a free ticket for a guest pass during one of the events. We have guest speakers and guest readers this year. One of them is the finder of lost items, Miss Molly knows, and one of them is Hollis, who does death charts, death astrology charts. Is what it is.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we have all of these, and it's limited to 25 people, and it's already more than halfway sold out. So get it. It's on my website, which is right here. It's also on Kathy's website. It's wonderful. We build a community over the year. Everybody gets to know each other. You get mediumship readings. We give away free prizes at the end. It's chock. I forgot the best part. when you sign up, you get a free 20-minute one-on-one reading with one of us. So
Awesome.
you don't only just get the 10 galleries, you definitely for sure get a one-on-one reading. I also have my digital mediumship course. I do private readings, multiple different kinds. They're all on my website. I answer my emails, which is the same as my website, just at gmail.com. I always love answering questions and helping guide people through their mediumship journey or their spiritual journey. And I'm so grateful to you, Jeffrey. And I can't wait to have our religion chat next time.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We'll get that set up afterwards. Okay, let's do that.
Yeah, for sure.
And you guys, all of you that are new here, thank you so much for joining us. Please hit the subscribe button. Join us for more spiritual talk, more real talk, more. We usually do readings for you guys, you know, these little mini readings, but this conversation really took on legs that it obviously Spirit needed it to have. And I'm so grateful to have this conversation with you. And I'm so grateful for all of you here that were participating and having your own things to add to it. It's just such a beautiful community. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, so very much. I'm so grateful for this community. It helps me in my mental health.
Oh, totally. That's the truth. Yeah. So, all right, you guys, you have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you again next week. I'll be on live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And I don't have the names in front of me because I was racing around and just subscribe, get the notification and join us, please. You all are wonderful and beautiful. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.